Yo, in this video we'll be reviewing ineffa's signature weapon, Fractured Halo. It's a new 5-star polearm that's going to be coming out, and I'm going to be reviewing it as a weapon, not only on ineffa. I'm going to be reviewing it as just a weapon for your account in general. Is it worth getting? How many characters are going to be able to use it? Is the passive like universal and stuff like that? So as I always say, if you're in this video just to know if it's good on ineffa, yes, it is good on ineffa. And this is not what the video is about. The video is a review for the weapon as a whole for many polearm users to help you decide if the value is worth it for your account or no. But before we continue that though, if you're trying to get this weapon, I'd recommend checking out LD Shop. LD Shop is a cheap, fast, and secure game top-up website where you can buy different games currencies including Genshin Impact 20% cheaper or more. Check it out with the link in the description or the pinned comment. But yeah, back to the weapon review. This weapon is going to have 608 base attack at level 90, which is more average for a 5-star weapon. It's not low, it's not high, which is pretty good. That makes it more universal as a weapon. It's pretty usable on a lot of characters. The substat on this weapon is going to be crit damage, and it's going to give you 66% crit damage at level 90, which is also pretty good. Crit damage is usually a universal substat. A lot of characters need crit, and weapons that have crit rate or crit damage on them are usually more valuable. So for right now, the stats are already pretty good. You can just use this weapon as a simple stat stick, just high base attack and then crit damage as a substat, so it's already not bad as a weapon. Now moving on to this weapon's passive. This weapon doesn't have any like flat increases, so you get nothing from the passive as like it's just a simple increase with no conditions. So the passive is going to start with after an elemental skill or elemental burst is used, that's like the condition, attack is going to be increased by 24% for 20 seconds. So as I said before, it doesn't give you any like flat increases. There's a lot of weapons where you have like just by equipping this weapon you're going to gain like 12% attack increase from the passive, but this weapon doesn't have that. It has a condition, but the condition is that you only need to use your elemental skill or burst, and the attack increase is going to be 24% and it's going to last for 20 seconds. In my opinion, that's going to be pretty good because most characters can just fulfill that condition pretty easily. A lot of characters can use just their elemental skill or burst, and the attack increase is going to be 20 seconds, so it's going to last for like a whole rotation. And also 24% attack is going to be a high attack increase in my opinion. It's not only 12% like usual weapons. So that's a good part in my opinion at least, because a lot of characters will be able to trigger the attack increase. Some characters, it might mess their rotations and stuff like that because you still need to use your elemental skill or burst. But I feel like for most characters that's not a problem at all, and even though you have a condition, it's pretty easy to meet. Just pop in your elemental skill or burst and you're gonna have the attack increase for a full 20 seconds, which is super good. So I really like this part of the passive. Now the second part of the passive, if the equipping character creates a shield while this effect is active, they will gain the electrifying edict effects for 20 seconds, which is all nearby party members are gonna deal 40% more lunar charge damage. Now this part is very specific, at least at this point in the game right now, because your party members dealing more lunar charge damage means they have to be able to deal that in the first place, and the only way you can deal that right now in the game is going to be ineffa. Without ineffa, there's no lunar charge damage at all, so it doesn't matter. And also the character needs to be able to create a shield. So this part of the passive is only applicable to ineffa on your team using this weapon at this point in the game, because she's the only one who can transform electrocharged into lunar charge. Without it, this part of the passive is going to be useless. Even if the character can create a shield, nobody's going to be able to take advantage out of this passive. But in the future, for example, we can see other characters that are being able to transform the reactions to lunar charge reactions, or at least use lunar charge themselves. And in that case, if you slap this weapon on a polearm user that can shield, it's going to buff these characters or buff your whole team. So in the future, it's possible, but for right now, this part is super ultra specific just for ineffa. That's it. But the buff is pretty good though. 40% increase to your lunar charge damage is going to be pretty valuable, at least from what we're seeing for ineffa's teams. Alright, so now moving on to characters, we're going to skim through them pretty quickly and then see which one of them can use this weapon and which ones cannot use it and why. So obviously we're going to filter out the polearm users only, and starting off with Yunjin. She's just a defense character, so she's not really going to benefit from it. She cannot use this weapon. Yayo, the same thing. I think she skills with HP, so no. Xiangling, I think she could use this weapon, obviously not the second part of the passive, but she can definitely use the first part. It's going to give her a decent amount of crit damage, and then you can use your skill before you burst, and then use your elemental burst, and it's going to snapshot the attack increase. But obviously you'll need to use your skill before your burst, which is, you know, normal for any of her rotations, but make sure you do that because her burst snapshots. So if you use your burst right away, I don't think you're going to get the buff. So you'd want to make sure you trigger the buff with your elemental skill first and then use your burst. But either way, it's going to work on her. It's going to give her crit damage, attack, and a high base attack, so it's pretty good. With Toma, I don't think it's going to be the best weapon for him per se, because he doesn't scale with like attack at all. Also doesn't really need any crit, but you can maybe use it with him if, as I said before, for example, in the future, there are more characters who can use lunar charge reactions with like without ineffa, and you can put Toma on the team with this weapon and he can create a shield and then it can buff these characters. But that's just future speculation, and even then I don't think Toma is going to be like the go-to character you'd want to go for to use in this case. It's Pyro, so I don't see the fit exactly. So yeah, for Toma I don't really think it's a good weapon. Rosaria, she's just a normal sub DPS, pretty much the same thing. She scales with like normal attack, crit, and stuff like that, so it's going to be a normal good stat stick on her. The second part of the passive she cannot use. Mika is just HP, so I don't think she's going to work on him. Kashina is just defense, I think, so it's not really going to be the weapon for her. Lansan, you can use it as an attack stat stick, I would guess, but I mean, it's not bad. Chevreuse is just HP, and then Candace is also just HP, I would think. Forgot what her kit is, but I don't think it's going to be the weapon for her. Now, finally, for the 5-star users, we have Zhongli. I think is interestingly going to be one of the few characters who can use this weapon in a non-like conventional way. It's the exact same thing that I said with Toma. If in the future we have more characters who can do lunar charge without ineffa, he can be a shielder. He can create a shield. He's not going to benefit from this weapon's like attack and crit and stuff like that. But in general, you can use it on him to buff like a lunar charge team. He can just create a shield, and then the lunar charge damage of the rest of your team is just going to be buffed. And I think it's going to be a much better candidate than Toma on that, because his shield is just going to be stronger, and also it's going to be Geo, so it's not going to mess with your reactions and stuff like that. I can see it being used on Zhongli, but it's definitely not like the weapon for Zhongli in general, so that's for sure. Unless you're building like a sub DPS sort of Zhongli, but it's not worth it. But it's not fully bad. It's definitely usable on Zhongli in some sort of future lunar charge teams, which I would think is probably going to happen. With Zhao, I think it's going to be pretty good on him, honestly. It's probably going to be an S tier weapon, even like at least A tier. It's just going to give him everything he needs: attack, crit damage, which he needs a lot, and then also a high base attack. You can just use your skill and then go into your burst, and you're going to have the attack buff. So it's going to be pretty good. Obviously, you cannot use the second part of the passive. Shinhan can use it as just like an attack stat stick, I guess. It's going to have sort of a high base attack, and you can also get the attack from the passive, so it's going to be pretty good. Raiden, same thing. It's going to work on her. It's just like a crit damage and then attack stat stick. Probably not the best weapon for her, obviously, but just for the attack, I think it's going to be pretty worth it, honestly. So yeah, it's a pretty good weapon for Raiden Shogun too. Hu Tao can use it. It's just like a crit damage stat stick too. Well, that's pretty much it. She cannot really use the attack buffs or even benefit from the high base attack. The Staff of Homa is going to be much better, but it's not a super bad weapon like at all, that's for sure. It's going to be like at least a low A tier weapon, I would say. Escoffier can definitely use this weapon. It's just going to give her the attack and then crit damage. She can benefit from that, but obviously she cannot take advantage out of the rest of the passive. Also, the exact same thing with Emily. I think she could benefit just from it as a stat stick, so that's pretty good. Sinu can also use it as just like a crit damage and attack stat stick, so I would guess it's also going to be pretty good. And then finally, Arlecchino can definitely also do the same thing. It's going to give you some attack, crit damage, stuff like that. You can also use it as a stat stick, and it's going to do pretty well in Arlecchino. So yeah, those are all the characters, obviously, other than ineffa. Ineffa can take full advantage out of this weapon. It's going to be much better than any other weapon in terms of her own damage and also support in general for the rest of your team. And it's probably going to have a little more value on ineffa as we see more like lunar charged characters who can take full advantage out of the reaction. Alright, so now for the final conclusion, is this weapon good? Honestly, I would say it's pretty good. If you don't have any like pole arms in general, like 5-star good pole arms, and you're trying to get one, I don't think this weapon is bad at all. I give it like a 4 out of 10 rating in terms of like being a good universal weapon, honestly. I think it's pretty good. It could give you like good attack, good crit damage, and a good high base attack, which is usable on a lot of characters as we've seen before. And this weapon also has the potential to be a super good support weapon for lunar charge teams, especially if you have ineffa. But even if you don't, you can use it with another shielder, as we've seen before, like Zhongli, for example, and you can use that to buff lunar charge teams, which are probably going to be in the meta for a while. So yeah, I do think this weapon is a good weapon if you don't have any other 5-star weapons and you're trying to see if it's a good weapon to get for your account. Personally, I would say yes. But yeah, tell me what you guys think in the comments. Don't forget to leave a like, subscribe to the channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.